Now, a lot of people don't understand inflammation, and there is a healthy form of inflammation, like when you bang your finger or you cut your finger and it swells because the red blood cells go there and they start combating the injury and start to heal the injury. But then, and for example, as well, you have when you get sick, there's a degree of inflammation. The body becomes inflamed. Now, this is healthy inflammation. The kind of inflammation we want to combat, however, is when is chronic inflammation. The difference between a healthy inflammation and chronic inflammation is chronic inflammation builds and builds and builds. It is cumulative and it can affect any part of the body. Now, eventually, when this runs away with us, we find that our bodies start to break down and degenerate. Now, chronic inflammation can affect any part of your body. For example, inflammation of the brain, we have Alzheimer's, a very scary word. Alzheimer's didn't affect many people when in the time of my grandfather, but now it's slated to affect 1 in 10 people. So basically, inflammatory diseases, you can have a look, a number of them more than 100, and we fear them for good reason. But they seem to have come out of nowhere. They've become the modern day plague. And there are several reasons for this, which we explore within the website and then apply protocols to enable you to reduce inflammation. But if you think about it, you've got Alzheimer's, you've got fibromyalgia, you've got asthma. When I was at school, I had asthma. You know, I was the only kid in school who had asthma. Nowadays, 1 in 3 kids has asthma. So something is going wrong. If you don't have an inflammatory disease, the chances are that you know somebody who does. So they're definitely on the rise. Now, there are some ways of combating inflammation, and that is our focus of this month and probably all the consecutive months to follow, on how to reduce inflammation within your body, using protocols and empowering you with knowledge to enable you to avoid some of the areas which give rise to an ongoing inflammatory disorder. Now, one point here when it comes to inflammation. Inflammation of the brain is something that's very close to my heart. I suffered the misery of brain damage after having the accident. It took me 11 years to recover, so I don't want to go back there. And guess what? I'm not going to go back there. Why? Because I've learned on how to reduce inflammation. 1 in 10 people nowadays is expected to have some form of early onset dementia. Now, this didn't occur 30 or 40 years ago. You know, people were living long beyond the 80s and 90s and not suffering from the debilitative effects of degeneration within the brain. And now it's becoming all too common. Okay. Let me tell you about my sister. You know, it's impossible to get your family to listen to you when it comes to giving advice, especially as an older brother. And I've been trying to get my sister onto the fulvic acid for the last couple of years, and she's just ignored me until she went to a blood test, and then she came back and said to me, she's been diagnosed with having all sorts of these onset of inflammatory disorders within her body. What can she do? I put on the fulvic acid, I put on the soma packs. She was on it for 6 months, and then she went back to the doctor and had some more bloods done. And the physician there said, "Oh, Dad, what have you done?" You know, and she started to panic and say, "Well, why? What's wrong?" She said, "No, it's like I'm looking at a different person." She said, "You've settled down in so many areas. The inflammation is regressing at a remarkable rate." She said, you are far healthier than you were 6 months ago. So the products work, but they work if you apply them consistently. It's no good jumping onto something like the fulvic acid and after a month saying, "Oh, well, I'm not so sure that that's helping me." The fact of the matter is, anybody getting onto fulvic acid, literally within a few days, they'll find that the brain fog starts to clear, they'll start to feel the benefits, and most of the people realize how good fulvic acid is after they've been taking it for a few months, and then they stop taking it, and they suddenly realize what life feels like without fulvic acid. Is that okay?
Cool.
Is it cool?
Okay.
You know, the more I find out about fulvic acid, the more I wonder why it's not the #1 supplement on everybody's list.